Hello students, today we are going to start the topic algae, fungi and protozoa. These are the classification of the microorganism. You know that microorganisms are classified into 5 types. That is bacteria, then they are classified as algae, fungi, protozoa and viruses. So in today's class we'll be discussing about this algae, fungi and protozoas. So the first topic for this topic is algae. Now students, as we have discussed about this bacteria. Now bacteria is a microorganism that is useful also and that is harmful also. But it's an animal based microorganism, that is, it do not make its own food. But you know, algae behave like plants and they can make their own foods. So algae are simple plant-like organisms which have cell wall and chlorophyll within the cells. They can synthesize their own food by the process of photosynthesis. So I think मुझे आप लोगों को photosynthesis process बताने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. A photosynthesis process is simple process in which plants make their own food. Green color plants, okay, because of the presence of chlorophyll they have green color. So this green color plants can make their own food. And how they can make their own foods? By the process of photosynthesis, that is in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll. With the help of this carbon dioxide and water, they can convert this inorganic matter into organic matter, which can be used as food by the plants. Okay, so they are mostly autotrophic in nature. What are autotrophics? We have learned about that autotrophic, heterotrophic. So these are autotrophic organisms and they can live in water also and other moist place. Okay, so some of these are also found in snow and hot springs also. Now bacha, algae can be unicellular also and they can be multicellular also. So you can say that this microorganism can be unicellular and multicellular. What is unicellular and what is multicellular? Unicellular मतलब कि एक cell made up of one cell only. एक organism सिर्फ अगर एक cell से बना हुआ हो उसे हम unicellular कहते हैं. And if an organism is made up of more than one cell, then it is called multicellular organism. Okay. Now, if we talk about the size, that is their size. What is the size range of algae? Is from 1 micron to several meters in length. That is 8 micron. That is 1 micron means 10 to the power minus 6 meter. See, they can be differed to several meters in length. Okay. So now we will be discussing the classification of the algae. You know, on the basis of the pigment present in them, the algae can be classified as follows. First type of algae can be green algae. Now students, this green algae, as the name suggests, the color of the pigment is green in color. So that is what is the basic nature of green algae is, that is they contain chlorophyll. And because of this chlorophyll, they can make their own food. Now this green algae, okay, they have the presence of chlorophyll. Okay, then they may be unicellular or multicellular. Okay, maybe unicellular or multicellular. Next point of the green algae is, now we will be discussing the examples of this green algae. So some examples of green algae is Chlamydomonas, Spirogyra, Volvox, Eulothox, and you can see the image of this green algae as given in your books. Okay, so these are some green algae. Okay, so examples. Let me write down the one name for this for you. Volvox. Okay, so this is one of the example of green algae. Now students, we will be discussing the second classification which are categorized under algae, blue-green algae. Let me wrap this and we'll be writing about this blue-green algae. Now as the name suggests that they may have some green pigment also and they have some blue pigment also. So the name of this algae is blue-green algae. Now students, if we're talking about this blue-green algae, now this blue-green algae are mostly single-celled autotrophs. That is, because of this green color they have chlorophyll, and because of this chlorophyll they are autotrophs. What are they? They are autotrophs. Okay? Now, they are autotrophs and they are single-cell, that is they are unicellular. Let me write down the word unicellular. Single cell means unicellular. Okay, so am I clear on this that what is unicellular and what is cellular? Multicellular. Okay, now they are unicellular in nature and they have a primitive cell structure, that is they have a very old type of cell structure. What is primitive? बच्चा जब हमारी life अर्थ पे form होना start हुई थी, there were two types of cells were developing. So first type of cell that develop, हम उसे primitive cell structure कहते हैं. So they have a primitive cell structure. About this we'll be discussing in our further chapters also and in further classes also. बहुत detail में हम पढ़ेंगे what is this primitive cell structure is. So write down, just note down the name that they have primitive cell structure. Okay, now you know students, this blue-green algae can be used as a fertilizer also. Okay, because they can fix this atmospheric nitrogen to usable compounds. So can be used as a fertilizer. Okay, so it can be used as a fertilizers also. So what happens, as this blue-green algae is very much organic, it also improves the soil texture also. Now just some examples of this blue-green algae are Oscillatoria and Anabaenia. Okay, let me write down this name, one example for you. Anabaenia. Okay, so this is the example of blue-green algae. Now the third classification of the algae is diatoms. So let me wrap this and we'll be discussing what are diatoms. So green algae are autotrophs, blue-green algae are also autotrophs. Green algae can be multicellular and unicellular, but blue-green algae is only unicellular. So the next classification is diatoms. Now which diatoms are this marine algae, okay, because they are present in water, okay, and because they are marine algae, they are very light in weight and they can float in water also. Due to this presence of this light storage fats along with silica. What happens, this diatoms, they are called marine algae also. इन्हें marine algae भी कहते हैं. Okay, and this marine, they can float in water. And why they can float in water? Because of light storage fat. Okay, because of this light storage fat presence along with silica. Okay, so this is about some diatoms, and students, you can see the forms of diatoms in your books. The examples of diatoms are, you know, this Tibelia, this Nitsugia, Sphoria. So these are the examples of this diatoms. Okay, so let me write down this one name example for you. Melocera. Okay, so it completes the topic diatoms, and this was the classification of algae. Now we'll be discussing some uses of algae for us and how this algae can be useful to us, okay, to us, that is to the humans. So the first, let me write down this heading, uses of algae. Now students, the first use of algae is in agriculture. Where it can be used in agriculture? As I have told you that this blue-green algae can be used as a fertilizer, okay, because it can fix atmospheric nitrogen. So one use is in agriculture. The second use is in medicine. You know, in medicine also we can use this algae. They have a very vast importance to us. In medicine, antibiotics are prepared from some algae. So, like chlorella. Okay. So, antibiotics can be produced by this algae. Next, third one, the use of algae is as food. You know, students, this algae, as they are plant-based and they can be used as a food also. In salads and in soups we can use this algae, and we eat also this algae. Okay, try to find out one name of the one algae which you eat. Okay, this is your task to do. Okay, now next thing, in industries. You know, in industries also we use algae. You know, different commercial products are obtained from algae, you know, like agar, sodium, potassium, iodine. These are all obtained from with the help of this algae. Now fifth, in space. अब आप सोच रहे होंगे space, universe में algae का क्या use है? You know, in recent years, algae have been used as a source of oxygen in spaceships and also as a food. अभी मैंने बताया कि algae को हम as a food use कर सकते हैं और as a source of oxygen भी use किया जाता है. क्यों, कैसे use किया जा रहा है बच्चा? पहले क्या होता था? The spaceships used to carry this food process of waters, and they used to separate this water and they used to form this hydrogen and this oxygen. Oxygen is used by the humans, and this oxygen and the hydrogen was used by the spaceship as a fuel. Nowadays what is happening, this algae is carrying out there, and this algae is giving out this oxygen, and this oxygen is used by the humans, and after this algae is also eaten by the humans so that it can be utilized. So these are the uses of algae. Now we'll be discussing harmful algae. That is, what are the harmful effects of algae are. Okay, let me wrap this, then we'll be discussing what are the harmful algae are. You know, algae are harmful as well. Now some harmful effects of algae are water pollution. They can pollute the water because when they grow in water and the multiplication is very much, it leads to change in its order and taste. अगर algae बहुत ज़्यादा water में produce हो रही हैं, then the color of the water will be changing, and also the order and the taste of this water will be changing. Now the second harmful effect of algae is parasitic. Students, some algae are parasitic in nature and they can cause very serious diseases also. Okay. Third, toxicity. What is toxicity? That is, some algae produce toxic substance which affect the fish in the water, and this fish, when we eat, we may also get ill. And fourth, that algae can damage textiles and buildings. Okay. So these are the harmful effects of algae. Now we'll be discussing the next type of microorganism, that is fungi. Okay, we'll be discussing the next type of microorganism, that is called fungi. Let me write down the name. Okay, let's start. You know, students, fungi can be found everywhere. You know, students, आपको सबको itching होती है. You all just feel like this and this type of things. What is this? This is because maybe there's some fungal infection happens to you, or some fungus has grown and which is causing this itchiness to your body. So fungi can be found everywhere, whether in desert or in very cold regions. Everywhere they can be found. They can grow best in dark, warm and moist place. वो कहाँ सबसे ज़्यादा favorable condition क्या है उनकी? Dark, warm and moist place. There they can grow very fast. That means they can multiply very fastly. Now, you know, they come in different sizes. They can be unicellular while the other are multicellular. Okay, now they do not have any roots, stems, leaves, flowers or chlorophyll. Okay, now they are either saprophytic in nature or they are parasitic in nature. Now what is saprophytic in nature? That is, they feed on the remains, that is the dead remains. Okay, or parasitic, they may attach to a host and from that host they may be deriving this nutrition. Now students, there is an activity given in your book to observe bread mold under a microscope. What is bread mold? First we'll be discussing what is bread mold. Students, आपने कभी कभी देखा है आपकी ब्रेड पे कि ग्रीन कलर का, व्हाइट ग्रीन कलर का एक ग्रीनिश कलर का पिगमेंट्स आ जाते हैं ब्रेड पे. वो क्या होता है आपको पता है? They are fungus and that is called mold. So this bread mold अगर आप माइक्रोप्रोसेसर के अंदर देखें, माइक्रोस्कोप के अंदर देखेंगे, so you will be finding that these molds are moving and they are a little bit organism. These organisms are called fungi. Okay? So आप mold कैसे बना सकते हैं? हर किसी के घर में होगा नहीं ना? So you just take one thing, take a slice of bread, dip it in water and place it on a plate in a warm place. Leave it for a few days. And after that you will be seeing that the mold has been developed on this bread. Now see this mold under the microscope. So you will be seeing the fungus colonies. Okay. Now there is another activity also given, which is to observe budding in yeast cells. So what you will be taking? You will be taking baker's yeast and a warm sugar solution, microscope and a glass slide will be required by you. Now what you will be doing? That you will be taking some this baker yeast in a warm sugar solution and leave it undisturbed for 2 to 3 hours. Then put a drop of this mixture on a clean glass slide. Now examine this slide under the microscope. What you will be observing? You will be observing that the yeast, that is the baker yeast, is starting having this budding. And what is budding, students? Let me tell you. Maybe this is the structure of yeasts. हमेशा आफ्टर 10 hours 20 hours मत देखिएगा, वरना पूरी कॉलोनी बन जाएगी. आके देखेंगे आफ्टर 2 to 3 hours आप ये देखने लगेंगे कि ये जो ईस्ट है इसके ऊपर एक ऐसा ना बर्ड फॉर्म हो रहा है, एंड दिस इज कॉल्ड बडिंग. ओके, दैट इज ये मल्टीप्लिकेशन मोड में आ गए हैं एंड दे आर स्टार्टिंग टू मल्टीप्लाई एंड फॉर्मिंग अ नंबर ऑफ ईस्ट. ओके, दैट इज अब यहाँ पे बहुत सारी ईस्ट बन जाएंगे थोड़ी सी ईस्ट से. ठीक है, सो दिस इज कॉल्ड बडिंग. ओके, so this is the activity that is given in your book. These two activities you can easily perform at your homes also, or you can perform at your school labs because of the unavailability of microscope at your homes. Now next we'll be discussing kinds of fungi. That is, what are the kinds of fungi are. Now as I have told you, there are different types of fungi present. Some common examples of fungi are mushrooms, puffballs, molds, mildews and yeast. Now students, the two types of classification, as I have told you, fungi can be of two types. There can be of saprophytic and parasitic. So first we will be discussing kinds of fungi, and the first example is parasitic fungi. Now this parasitic fungi, and the next is saprophytic fungi. Okay. Now students, parasitic fungi, they grow on a living plant or animal and obtain ready-made food from them. So these are called parasitic fungi, and the example of this parasitic fungi is mildew. You can see the image given in your books of this parasitic fungi. Now next fungi is saprophytic fungi. Now the saprophytic fungi, they grow on a decaying or rotting plants and animal remains and obtain their food from them. And these are called saprophytic fungi, which such as mold. Okay. Now mold, mushrooms, these are your saprophytic fungi. Mushrooms are your large saprophytic fungi that grow on tree trunks, clay soil, and rotten logs. Now just one interesting thing about this mushroom is mushroom can be used as a food also. And one another thing also, that this mushrooms, some mushrooms can be poisonous, some can be good for your health. So ये हमें classify करना पड़ता है कि किस mushroom को हम खा सकते हैं, किस mushrooms को हम खा नहीं सकते. Okay, now we'll be discussing the uses of fungi, then we'll be discussing harmful effect of fungi. So first we will be discussing the usefulness of this fungi. Uses of, okay. Now fungi can be used as food in cakes and breads. These, that is the yeast, that is baker's yeast, is used at a proper temperature, suitable temperature. This yeast reproduces very fast and produces carbon dioxide by the fermentation of sugar, and as more and more gases produced, the dough rises in volume, and which makes your bread and cakes porous and spongy. आपके cake spongy और porous किसकी वजह से होते हैं? Because of this fungi, that is baker's yeast. Now mushrooms, as I've told you, mushrooms can be eaten as food. Now certain fungi are used in the manufacture of alcohol and wines by the process called fermentation. Now these fungi are called Saccharomyces cerevisiae, or you can say them brewer's yeast. Brewers. Baker's yeast is another thing and brewer's yeast is another thing. Now there is an activity given in your books, bacha, and it is to demonstrate the fermentation of dough. So what you have to do, it's a very simple type of activity. You take a bottle and yeast, a sugar, balloon, and this warm water. Now what you will be doing, taking some this baker's yeast and mix it with this warm water, sugar, and a little flour. You will be adding some flour in it. That is maida. Okay. And now what you will be doing, to add this mixture into a bottle. Now cover its mouth with an unfilled balloon and leave it aside. Now what you will be saying, with time this balloon gets filled with gas, which is produced due to the fermentation of sugar by this yeast cell. Okay. Now what happens, this gas can be tested by passing it through lime water. Okay, now what happens बच्चा, आप क्या करेंगे इस एक्टिविटी में? You will be doing कि आप 2 bottles लीजिए, एक में ईस्ट डालिए, एक में ईस्ट और शुगर सोल्यूशन डालिए. जिसमें सिर्फ ईस्ट होगा ना, वो बलून जो होगा ना, वो राइस नहीं करेगा, दैट उसमें गैस फिल नहीं होगी. बट जिसमें ईस्ट भी है और शुगर सोल्यूशन भी है, वो बलून राइस करेगा, दैट उसमें गैस का इवोल्यूशन होगा. और जो ये गैस है, आप इसे टेस्ट करेंगे लाइम वाटर में डाल के, तो इट विल चेंज दैट लाइम वाटर इनटू मिल्की कलर, because or it will give some effervescence also. So this is the presence of carbon dioxide can be tested. It's the present test of carbon dioxide. Okay. Now students, there is some fact side given, that is the idli and dosa. You know they are South Indian dishes, and the South Indian dishes are prepared from a mixture of powdered dal and rice. Now, what happens in this idlis and this dosas? What happens? We do this mixture is allowed to stand for a few hours. That is, the yeast cell from the air gets into it, and this yeast cells grow and the mixture rises and becomes sour. Okay, आपकी मम्माज mostly जब idlis and sambar dosas बनाते होंगे, they used to say that khamiru try. What is this khamiru try means? That is, it is producing this yeast multiplication is going on. Okay. Next, fungi, medicines. Fungi can be used in medicines also. That is penicillin, which is called wonder drug, is a fungus which is obtained from penicillium. Now, fungi help to decompose dead tissues of plants and animals, which increase soil fertility. Now, there is a fact side given to students that in 1929, Dr. Alexander Fleming discovered a chemical which is produced by the fungus penicillium. So, okay, this is penicillin was discovered by Dr. Alexander Fleming in 1929. Now, we'll be discussing some harmful effects of fungi, that is, first, food spoilage. They can spoil the food, okay. Next, diseases. Many fungi can cause many types of diseases like the athlete's foods, and there's what is athlete's foods? You know, when you have this itchiness in your legs, this is called by fungi, and you know, athlete's foods, ringworm, these are all type of diseases that is caused by this fungus or fungi. They can also spoil leather also. Students, this fungi grow on this leather footwear and cotton cloth, and they can, which are used in rains, and they may be destroyed due to this amount of moisture present in the air. Now the next topic, that is protozoa. This is also a classification of your microorganism. Let me write down the name. Okay. Now let's discuss this. Now students, protozoans are your unicellular microorganisms. They possess the ability to move from one place to another, and they came in different shapes, forms, and they are from very simple to very complex types of structures are. Okay, they can have a very simple cell structure, or they can have a very complex cell structure also. Okay, and they can live in fresh and salty water, and some may live in the soil also. Now these organisms may be sedentary, that is, they are not capable of moving from one place to another, but some are capable of locomotion, that is, some can move from one place to another. And how can they move from one place to another? With the help of the cilia, flagella, or pseudopodia. Okay, these are the moving parts which help the protozoa or these microorganisms to move from one place to another. Now we'll be discussing some types of protozoa. That is, first is amoeba. Now this is the most common type of microorganism in this category. All have heard about this amoeba. Now it is the simplest unicellular organism, and it lives in fresh water, and it's irregular in shape. That is, it do not have any defined shape to it. It moves with the help of finger-like structures called pseudopodia, and the pseudopodia means, for students, pseudo means false and this podia means feet. So false feet, okay, do not have this false feet, but it's a name given to it, that is pseudopodia, which leads to temporary pushing out of cytoplasm. It feeds on tiny parts of plant like algae, and the pseudopodia surrounds a soil particle which is then pulled inside. So you can see there is an image given of this amoeba in your books. Now students, there is a fact site also given. You know this protozoa, what is the meaning of this protozoa is, proto means first and zoa means animal. Thus the term protozoa means the first animal. Protozoans are unicellular in nature. The next type of protozoa that we are going to study is paramecium. Paramecium. Now students, this paramecium is also a freshwater protozoa, and you know the shape of this protozoa, how it look like a slipper shape. Okay, and its body is covered with minute hair-like structure called cilia, and they help in the locomotion and to catch the prey. So you can see the image of this paramecium that is given in your book. Okay, so you can see that it is in a form of a slipper, you know? Now let's discuss next type of protozoa, that is plasmodium. Plasmodium. Now plasmodium, you know, it causes malaria in human beings. It lives as a parasite in two types of hosts, in RBCs and human liver, and second in the saliva and the stomachs of female Anopheles mosquitoes. So what happens? ये जो फीमेल एनोफिल्स मस्किटो के अंदर रहते हैं, when this female anopheles mosquito bite a human, it may transmit this disease from this anophil female mosquito to the humans, and we may be suffering from chlamydia then. Now this life cycle of Plasmodium includes the female anophils mosquito where a human being is the host. Okay, now students, there is an image given in your books of this Plasmodium. Okay, so you can see clearly how this Plasmodium look like. Now when this female anophil mosquito bites and purges the skin for blood, Plasmodium is injected. Once they reach inside the human's body, it attacks the red blood cells. Okay, that is RBCs. So they live in where? In the human, it lives where? In RBCs, that is the red blood cells, and in the liver. Now we'll be discussing some useful protozoas. Okay, now protozoas are also useful in the following ways. Now these protozoans are the food for the aquatic animals. Okay, like fish and other mollusks, they use this protozoa as food. So they have a very important link in the aquatic food chain. So they are very, very important link. Now second, some protozoas live in the alimentary canal of animals and help them to digest the cellulose. What is cellulose? आप roughage सुनते बच्चा कि we need roughage also in our diets. So this roughage is nothing but cellulose. Third, protozoa help in waste degradation also. Now some harmful effects of protozoa are first, it is caused malaria. This disease malaria is caused by this which type of protozoa, that is Plasmodium, causes malaria. And other type of diseases are also caused by this protozoas, like Entomobia genualis is found in the tartar on teeth, causes pyorrhea, and this is a disease which can cause your decaying of teeth is occurring. And this Entomobia histolytica in the human intestine causes amoebic dysentery. So these are the diseases which are caused by protozoa.